This is Merchandise Mart. Transfer to Brown Line trains at Merchandise Mart. Doors closing.
Cheers.
Good to see you.
You as well.
So welcome to the Wisendale Weekly Wrap-Up, where we talk about architecture, design, everything in between. Today I have a reoccurring guest, I guess you could say. Here, I'll let you introduce yourself. Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, my name is Smitha. I am currently an architect with Smith Group. Last time I was on as the I-NOMA president, but I have wrapped that up and just getting into some new stuff now. So thanks for having me back.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's what I was going to explain on the intro, is that Smitha was actually the first guest that allowed the Wisendale podcast to record. So now we have a few other team members here. We have a few new gadgets.
We have like a production team.
Yeah, it's kind of like production, right? Kind of like doing it. So thank you again.
Yeah.
So for those people who don't know the I-NOMA, can you explain what that was like or what it is first?
Yeah, for sure. So I-NOMA is the Illinois chapter of the National Organization of Minority Architects. And that is a local state chapter of the larger NOMA organization. And that aims to provide support and community for people of color or any minority identifying individuals within the design professional sphere. So it tends to be a pretty white male dominated industry. And I think it's just really important to provide support for I think it's predominantly people of color, but then of course there are many other minority identifications that we want to support and just shed light on the fact that the struggles that occur in the industry are real and you need support to process those, move through them, and continue to be your best self in the face of all of this,
Yeah.
So that organization ends up doing a ton of community outreach. We do summer camps. We do programs for high school students, for elementary school students. And then on the other side, we provide workshops and happy hours and networking for our professionals. And so I was the president of our local chapter of that for 2019 and 2020, which was pretty cool. And that essentially...
Is that how long usually the terms are?
Yep, it's usually a 2-year term. And yeah, it was a great experience. They're still going strong. Jennifer Johnson is the president now. I'm of course in recuperation mode. And
well, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's I was on the IADA board for 4 years, so I definitely understand. It takes a lot of effort for sure.
Yeah. And one thing I realized just from collaborating with other orgs was other kind of nonprofit professional support organizations have staff. And we did not have staff. We were the staff and the volunteers and the leadership and the executive board.
Right.
And so that was just kind of an interesting thing where we had to be careful because it's very easy to end up just pulling on the same 5 to 10 people over and over again. And then all of a sudden you've got a sustainability issue because everyone's exhausted.
Yeah.
So that was something I worked through,
for sure.
But it's still going this year, so.
That's awesome. That was great. It's still going. Just a moment really quick. I want to give a shout out to Tom Karras at Karras Associates and Indiana Furniture for hosting us today. Tom is actually, speaking of nonprofit organizations, he is part of the DIFA board as well. So designers in the fight for AIDS, maybe? Damn it. What is it? What is it, Tom? Design Industry Foundation Fighting AIDS. See, I was
say
close.
You were 4 for 5.
I was trying. Got a few of them. Yeah. So, anyways, big shout out to Tom for hosting us. So
it's
yeah,
a beautiful showroom.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's great that you did that, and for sure that it's still going on.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so important to just have space to process things like that. And even in the pandemic, we made a big effort. It was kind of crazy. All of a sudden, April, it was like we had all these events planned and we just had to kind of shut them all down. But we still made a pretty big effort to just bring people together, connect. There was a lot to process with the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. And then Chicago itself became a hub for those protests. And there's a lot to talk about. And it's hard to go through that when you're experiencing the beginning of a pandemic and you're just like, oh, so I don't go anywhere anymore.
Right.
So it was, I I think I'm proud of how we handled it, because we were just figuring it out as it went, like everyone else. And we were a really young board, but I think it was successful.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
I think the NOMA convention is in Detroit this year, I believe, at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's the hope.
So just throwing that out there for everybody listening.
And it's the 30-year anniversary, and
Okay.
NOMA was officially founded in Detroit.
Interesting.
So it's a big deal. They really wanted to hold to like having another in-person conference there this year. So
Yeah, awesome. Hopefully Wisendale can do a little party down there or something.
hell yeah.
You know? Yeah, I know when the pandemic was hitting and the riots and everything protests, were going on. I saw you on a few of the different panels or things that were going on. You're like, it's great that, the conversations are being had, but I mean, it's unfortunate that they have to come in at that cost, and it's wild.
Yeah, I'll be honest. It was really jarring how many people reached out to me that week. Like, what can we do for I-NOMA? And I was like, don't ask that question for starters, like it was really frustrating of like, I guess I won't start naming names, but we won't go there.
No.
But it was like, I've been reaching out to you for 18 months now and I haven't heard anything back. And now you suddenly, and it just becomes really clear when it's more of a marketing angle than
of course.
trying to do the right thing angle.
Yeah.
And then it was just really awesome to just, there are people who did reach out and who were partners early on. And we were really blessed to like have that already. And then it felt that much more genuine to want to be like reacting or participating or collaborating alongside those organizations.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's also good to educate, right? Like the last presentation I was a part of that you were a part of was the AIA. Oh shit!
AIA Illinois.
Thank you.
Emerging
Professional.
Happy
Yeah.
Hour.
Thank you. God damn.
There's so many of them.
There's so many of them, and there's so many Zoom meetings,
Oh,
like
gosh,
so
so
many
many.
different presentations. But anyways, it was educating or making people understand the history of Bronzeville.
Yeah.
Right, that you guys really dove into, and which I thought was great. And we'll put the link on the website for people to check out. But I think that's super important, right? Like making sure people understand where it starts or just the history of it. So
Definitely. So I moved to Bronzeville about 3 years ago, and it was an interesting time because kind of shortly after that, things started to really just compound in terms of development. There's a lot happening. And I think it's not clear, and this is true of so many of Chicago's cities that hold so much rich history. It's not clear the legacy that they hold, and just because of segregation, redlining, racism, these communities have kind of been left for dead, and that sounds extreme, but that's kind of what it is when you drive around some of them and see what's remaining. And Bronzeville is one that just has this incredible mecca of things that are like really big deals. Like the first open heart surgery ever was performed by a Black man in Bronzeville at the Provident Hospital.
wow.
And there's so many pieces of information like that. Emmett Till's home is there. Nat King Cole has a home there. Margaret Burroughs, an incredible artist. The Southside Community Arts Center was a Black art kind of hub since Works Progress Administration, right? So that's since 1940, and it's been open continuously since then. I was amazed. Like one piece of information that really hit me was a couple of years ago, I visited I think it was George White exhibit at the Art Institute. These amazing hand-drawn huge sketches of like people and protest and life. And you go and learn about him, and Charles White, he wasn't allowed to attend the Art Institute because of segregation. And then the thought that they're now showcasing his work and making money off of that was like, okay. But he started at the Southside Community Arts Center because he couldn't attend and take class at the Art Institute. And stuff like that is just so amazing. Like those are heavy, important facts. Black History Month was initially Negro History Week, and that was founded by, I want to remember his name so bad, I believe it was Carter Woodson. And that happened at the Wabash YMCA. That's like 2 blocks from where I live. Like things like that to just know are crazy. So just zooming, I think both out and in at the same time, that this links to this concept of community engagement, which has been something that I'm dealing with really heavily in my new position with Smith Group, and just understanding like what is authentic community engagement? What does that mean? How do we honor communities? I'm reading a book right now, Know Your Price by Andre Perry, and it was just published last year, and he gets into a lot of the specifics of communities that have caused kind of the state of things that we see today, and how devaluing Black life, Black property, Black community is an issue. And so, and how it links to just, everything we're seeing today. So all of that is just, these are the things that I'm kind of working with right now.
Yeah, that's wild. That's heavy.
It's heavy, but I can't stop.
No,
Once you start learning,
you can't.
You just want to keep going. And I'm happy that can link to my work right now. We were talking earlier about Invest Southwest, so I'm able to bring a lot of what I'm learning to our practices with community engagement.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
all of that. So, anyways.
Well, how long have you been at Smith Group now?
We are at, I believe, 10 months.
Okay, nice. Congrats. And just, because a lot of the audience is architecture and design, what's the difference between firms, I guess? Or what would you say operational? Because obviously Smith Group is a huge...
between Smith Group and Interactive?
Yeah. Just, I guess... you don't have to go into specifics. Just to what would be the difference between firms? Because I'm always interested to hear how people's experience at firms differ, right? Like you have a lot more resources when you're at a company like Smith Group, or you have a lot more mentors and mentees and a lot more people to really dive into when you guys are already at the table and you're talking, as opposed to being a small team. Your resources are limited. So I'm just curious.
I mean, resources is huge. When I was onboarded, there was an IT orientation, an HR orientation, a marketing orientation, and the number of things that were not my problem anymore because there was a department whose job it was to solve those problems was crazy. And then just the sheer amount of content, there's a video or a webinar to learn just about anything. And this is a 1,300 person firm across the country.
Yeah.
So it's different in that way. In some ways it's similar though, because I really only work with the same, maybe, 8 to 10 people. And especially since I was onboarded in the pandemic and have been working via video with them for a long time. For this
You sound sad.
time.
You sound sad. You're like, a long time.
Well, I don't know. Smith Group's office is amazing. It's an open layout office. There's no assigned seating. And
it's on Wacker and...
Yeah, Jewelers Building.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So it's... I wish I could have seen what that looks like in action.
Yeah.
So similar and different, but I don't know. There's a lot of... It's amazing how much is accessible being in a large firm like that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and Weisendale is a shortlisted firm for design team for Neighborhood Opportunity Fund.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Thank you. We were going to partner with some other firms to try to apply for the South by Southwest list as well, but we didn't end up pursuing that. And
Invest Southwest.
Invest Southwest, excuse me. What did I say? South by Southwest?
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's like music.
Apologize. Invest by Southwest. Can you talk a little bit about that and what Lori Lightfoot has done with that? I guess I don't know. People automatically assume it's to her, so that's why
I think it is very much touted as her initiative. But I'll just say when I talk to some community organizations, they say every mayor has done some version of this, for the last 20 or 30 years. This is her version.
Yeah.
So Invest Southwest is this initiative to bring investment to the south and west sides of Chicago. It kind of indirectly recognizes the history that exists there. And there's 10 corridors that have been identified. And I know that there's a lot of initiatives in all of the different city departments that support this, But in the Department of Planning, the biggest thing is issuing these 10 requests for proposals for these 10 different neighborhoods with the idea to build development that will catalyze, hopefully, future development. So the Chicago Central Area Committee has presented their services to the Department of Planning to kind of help form these RFPs. So the Chicago Central Area Committee is made up of a variety of different firms and companies and corporations, like not just designers, it's a lot of different things, developers, market analysts, tech firms, there's a lot. And so some of us have stepped up to solicit or demonstrated interest in helping to form these. So Smith Group is a member of the Chicago Central Area Committee, and we have provided services for helping to build the parameters for the Englewood, Bronzeville, and now as a team lead for the developing Roseland RFP.
Nice.
Yeah.
And when is there a, I guess, development goal date to happen, or are they accepting? Because I think the Bronzeville was just accepted in March, right? It just opened up in.
It opened end of November, right? And then all the proposals are due, I believe, March 31st.
March 31st, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's rolling. So they kind of do 3 or 4 neighborhoods every 3 or 4 months. So it's on this cycle. So I think with Bronzeville, we started in end of September, beginning of October. We had to have the whole thing done end of November for it to be published. They'll get proposals, and then they spend end of March. Then they'll spend a lot of time reviewing them with the community to get feedback that the actual proposal aligns with community priorities and needs. And then I think the idea is like spring of 2022, we'll have a project completed, which is pretty aggressive, right?
Yeah, it is aggressive.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's one piece of that. Roseland just started in February, and I think we're going to try to complete it end of April. And then, a few years, they'll give 4 months, I think, to create the proposals. And then, so.
And these are pretty, for those of you who don't know, these are pretty large developments that they are, that are being bitten off. I guess we don't really have to go into that, but I just feel like they are ambitious, I guess is the word. I don't know what the word to really... the right thing to say, because I would want to say, and again, no offense to anybody, I just feel like they're just not realistic for how change could happen, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
That's a really lovely way to put it. Because I agree with you. I just think that they're trying to catalyze development in a top-down type of fashion, and that I think we've proven that doesn't work a few times in history. But one thing I have to say, and I mentioned this to you earlier, is just the proposals that have come back, and these are publicly available to download and view, they're really innovative. And the city's goal, I guess, is to encourage partnership between large developers, right? Because the scale of development that we're seeing, which for reference is typically around 50 units to make all of these tax credits and everything else worthwhile to quote unquote close the gap, of the development fee. And with those proposals, so with those, it's important in order to get them done that there is a partnership, because a small, like you're saying, a small development firm couldn't necessarily take that on.
Right.
But what the city wants to see is these innovations between community organizations, chambers of commerce, small business owners, to partner with the larger developers and hopefully send in a proposal and finally build a project that reflects all of their different inputs. I feel the way your face is looking right now about all of that.
Don't zoom in on my face.
There are some perhaps other motives involved.
Yeah, and dive into, if you don't mind, diving into like the the unit mix? I mean, if we're talking 50 units, how big do they have to be? And are there those sort of requirements as well that are in the RFP?
So in order to qualify for the, affordable housing credits, which is, the TIF credits, you have to, you have to follow affordable housing guidelines, and that's the only way to kind of make it work from a residential standpoint, right? There's other initiatives such as the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund to finance commercial initiatives. But yeah, we used really basic metrics to do that, to look at the residential. We just kind of came up with an average of about, 750 square feet, with the assumption that there will be some larger, some smaller, some of those will be affordable, some of those will be market rate. And from there, you're kind of working backwards with your square footages. Yeah.
It's interesting to break those down and to understand like the parameters that you're working in, the numbers that you have to hit in order to get the TIF funding.
Right.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see all the activity. I mean, it's definitely making a lot of noise, and I don't know if it's because of the time or because of just me being more aware, but I think I hear about the developments more. I don't know which one it is, but because if other mayors have been trying it, I haven't heard about it. You know what I mean? So
I completely agree with you, because when this was mentioned to me, every mayor has done this. I was talking to someone with a local organization in Bronzeville. I cannot remember right now, to be honest, but she just mentioned that same thing. Every mayor's done something like this. And I was like, what? So she threw off like Rahm Emanuel's version of that, which I, of course, no longer remember. Yeah. But it was like a couple big developments in Bronzeville happened because of his initiative to do that.
Gotcha.
And so I guess when you see, in neighborhoods where you don't expect it, kind of sudden, new, shiny development, I think you could think that it's linked back. But I completely agree with you. There is a much different, wider spread effort in this case, which I guess should definitely be credited, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not just the Department of Planning, it's also the Department of Transportation, because we prance. And I believe a few others. I believe CHA, the Housing Authority, is involved as well. So I think they are trying to make this change on a pretty widespread many levels and layers.
I know the Housing Authority is putting out their, I forgot the name of it. It's like basically like a standards for the city. I can't think of the name.
We're not good with specifics, Felix. Let's just admit that. Neither of us are going to remember too many specifics.
Getting right over the top of it. I cannot remember the name of it, but it's coming out here shortly. Anyways, I thought the Raby Institute, their film, I don't know if you saw it, with the Shame of Chicago, I think it was. It was basically about Bronzeville and about I'm totally murdering this. God damn it. And the last time you were on the podcast, remember I mentioned something about the thing and you're like, no, it's the wrong organization. I'm like, are you sure?
She called me later. The president of that organization was like, Smitha, that was not us. And I was like, I know, I'm sorry.
Oh my God. But anyways, there was a documentary put out by the Raby Institute about the basically like home loan sharking pretty much, and about how it worked in Bronzeville. And it was a completely eye-opening documentary. So if I'll put the link in there and specifically get the right link in there for everybody to watch it. But yeah, I think for some reason the tone is just it's more it's hitting more, I guess, now.
Yeah, I think that's great, right? Because I think the other thing that's happening is we're starting to talk more about how long-term oppression kind of shows up in our lives and what that looks like for different people, because it shows up for everyone. I think it's just a matter of how you handle it, how you address it, how it affects you or you affect it.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier about education and just like knowing that, because if you're not if you're affecting versus affected, I think there's a good chance you're not necessarily aware without putting in that additional effort. So I think it's a great shift, right? I think the last 4 years were a little weird. But it brought to light a lot of things that maybe we wouldn't have been aware of if we had leadership that reflected us perhaps more accurately when it needed to. That might be my tendency to look for the silver lining. The last 4 years were shitty, but
they were. Yeah,
but there's also
it's going to be interesting after that. Here, let me get you some more wine too. With the pandemic, and how things have changed, and I hope it doesn't go back to being what it was.
Ooh, let's talk about that.
Yeah, what it was in the beginning. I'm just going to give you a little bit more because we're talking about that. There you go.
I just mean like when everyone says back to normal, that could be something we touch on a little.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what is that normal, right? And what does that mean? I don't know. I think you can go first.
I mean, I hope we don't. Is kind of what I think is we've learned so much from this pandemic, right? Like, in some ways, events and such have become more accessible, which is awesome, provided you have internet. And I think that's fantastic.
Fantastic.
Right? Like, I've tuned into events in Cali, events in DC. I got to see my professor when I was at school in Miami speak on a panel, and I was so happy because I'm not going to see that guy anytime soon, unfortunately. And it's amazing in that way. I think too, though, COVID did not care who you were, right? It was non-discriminating and definitely was not going to be paid off, So it just kept showing up. And I think that the fact that it couldn't be contained meant that we had to really, it was like a slap in the face to make us look at, hey, we are really ignoring some major components of how our society works, including some people. And so I hope that moving forward, we continue to just be cognizant of how policies or just basic actions, basic design decisions change like actual life for different groups of people.
Yeah, for sure.
That's like super up here.
Yeah.
We could ground that take on like what is normal too.
Yeah, no, I think it has to go. I mean, it takes people to actually make the change too, as well, right? And unfortunately, like it falls on few, but I think it should be everybody. Everybody should be making those decisions and inviting people in and having the conversations. Like I just think I don't know. I mean, what are we really going to go back to? Like business as usual? I don't know. It's a tough one for sure.
And we have this new chance for unity. We have this new chance to like have super common ground with people and be supportive. And I don't know. I think sometimes oppression is a little ingenious in that it keeps us all separated. But maybe what we learned from the pandemic was how much we have in common just from like realizing how much we need to see people. Or I realized like I need to ride the train regularly, like for my mental health, just to get out of my head, read a book, listen to that ding dong, doors closing, like all of that. It's these little things that can we find those in common and then use that to continue to build common ground moving forward? And then maybe our normal is a little more equitable. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Hopefully. One thing I have been tuning into and taking it on a lighter note is Zoom comedy shows. So
that's a thing?
It's a thing.
Felix, I need that.
We put it up on the screen.
From how heavy we've been.
It's hilarious. Shout out to KO Comedy.
I used to go to their actual shows.
Oh, really?
Right?
Yeah, for sure. Because they did have actual live in-person shows, but now they do like Friday, Saturday nights. They do some comedians, and we put it up on the big screen, and everybody, it's so funny. Like for us, we put it on the big screen, but some people are like really like on the laptops, like looking and watching the show. So it's pretty funny, and it's all donatable. Like you just donate. So that's one COVID thing that I hope continues.
The shows are free?
Shows are free. Yeah. And you can like Venmo them.
Yeah.
Which we always end up giving money. So
That's awesome.
it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
I'm for sure going to check that out.
What else have you been doing to relax your mind?
I cook a lot.
Do you?
So shout out to Urban Canopy, which
Okay.
is like a locally unified community sourced agriculture.
Yeah.
Is what their thing is. And so I've been getting a subscription box every week.
Very cool.
Get a bunch of locally grown root vegetables, and not just root vegetables, but a bunch of veggies, bread, mushrooms. They send a drink every week. So a couple of weeks I've gotten some like local beers, which are like delicious.
Cool.
Obviously, Weiner is a super delicious brewery, but I didn't know about Middlebrow, so that was a new one that I was getting some good things
Dropping
from.
all the knowledge here. I like
Yes,
it.
yes. I was like getting to know Chicago in a new way because I had to figure out how to cook like 3 pounds of turnips every month. Like, it was crazy.
You can't turn those into noodles or anything? You can't. It's a joke. That was a joke. That was a joke.
You don't joke about those things with creative people.
You're like, can I? Can I do that?
Spaghetti spiraler. Today we're having turnip spaghetti.
Yeah. Well, we had zoodles the other night, so that's why I was like, just throw it all in there.
No,
but the food deserts and getting food access, I think, is something that for me in my circle, that has been a big conversation that we've been having a lot lately. Yeah, so it's pretty interesting to see what people are doing to try to mediate that issue too.
Yeah.
What was the name of the food box you mentioned?
Urban Canopy.
Urban Canopy.
So you can check them out online. I think it's just urbancanopy.com, but you can just Google Urban Canopy. But right now they have their like flex boxes, so it's just on demand. You have to try to sign up, when the link drops every week. But they had a winter. Yo, it's
exclusive?
intense. I'm
real?
not kidding. I'm not kidding you.
You got to talk to my man over there about exclusive drops for sure.
I was like,
so it's once a week it drops.
Yeah, they started this. Well, usually it's a subscription, right? So right now, I believe you can still sign up for their summer subscription, which is you get a box every week, and it averages out to about $45 a box.
Okay.
And you get a bunch of produce, a loaf of bread from a local bakery, a beverage, could be coffee, could be beer, kombucha. We've got mulled wine spices. I got a box of chai, like all kinds of stuff. And then you also get mushrooms, and in addition to all your other produce. And then there's usually like some weird extra thing. Like they gave me pickled lemons, which I just put in gin and tonic. I don't know what to do with the pickled lemon.
It sounds great.
We're working on it. But so it's really cool. But then I guess with the pandemic last year and not knowing quite what was going to happen, they developed this flexible box thing, which is essentially like the Friday before each week. They drop a link and you're like, I want a box for next week. I'm not kidding you, Felix. That shit sold out in 15 minutes.
Oh my God. That is great though. It's kind of like trying to get on Creative Mornings. I don't know if you're ever familiar with Creative Mornings. Like when that was pre-COVID, Creative Mornings, once a month, last Friday of the month, they would hold presentations. And they're in multiple cities. So for all our millions of fans, whatever city you're in, check it out. But anyways, I'm sure you just got to keep clicking, keep refreshing. Yeah, that's so good. So cooking, huh? That's been
so a good thing was they would give recommendations for recipes to try out. So miso, because we're talking about turnips, miso glazed turnips was something I tried, which was super delicious. Just really like warm and nice for the winter. And then I would just try throwing in new recipes. Like I have, like, from my Indian side of my family, I've like learned a lot of like South Indian cooking, typical stuff. And so I'd be like, all right, look, let's just try using this vegetable in this dish I already know how to make because it seems similar. So I'm sorry.
Love it. Keep going. Love it.
So then I would add it in there and be like, okay, cool. Like this is a new thing. Nice. So, and then the other thing is like Google's crazy. You could just put any vegetables and then tacos into Google and you probably will come up with a good recipe.
Interesting. Pro tip right here. I love it. Love it.
So yeah, a lot of cooking. Got a lot of plants.
And you said also in the mail the other day you got your license.
Yeah.
How about that? That's a nice little.
Yeah.
Before we dive into that, I was helping my parents move last week, and I got my Harrington diploma out of. And it was still like in the FedEx box that they mailed it to me in, and I was like,
You were
"Oh,
like,
is this my diploma?" They're like, "Yeah, this is your college diploma." I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like, why didn't I have that? So, anyways, yeah, you just got your license.
I did.
Awesome.
I did. And after telling me it would mean nothing, Smith Group gave me a 5% raise. Like I asked when I was hired.
Hey.
And I personally believe that we should stop thinking it's weird to talk about salary.
Yeah.
Because that's how we all get paid more, I think.
Yeah, that's a huge conversation.
Yeah.
Huge
Well,
conversation.
I only like the huge ones.
Yeah, that's heavy. Heavy. Damn. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Keep going.
I just brought that up because I was really touched that when my supervisor gave me the raise, she said, this is not a secret at all. Anyone who gets their license is entitled to a 5% raise. It's a new corporate policy.
Okay.
We want to support you all. We believe in this. If you're asked about it, you can share as much as you like. And I really appreciated that from our internal culture. So yeah, I'm licensed now. It looks the same as.
Whoa.
Sorry, I thought we were keeping it light.
No. You can't just skim over that one. So what about? So now, are you saying that salary transparency you have with your peers or with people you work with?
Right now, it's just with my peers.
Okay.
I try to
Because that's important.
say mine
Yeah.
so that if anyone is comfortable saying theirs, they do.
Yeah.
At work, I haven't quite gotten there.
Yeah.
We have not been told not to share our salaries,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
It's an interesting
I
conversation.
push people's buttons in other ways.
Yeah, I'm sure you
quite
do,
ready
which
for
is
that
great.
one.
Which is great, because I mean, there's a lot of I hate to say this, but there's a lot of intangibles, right? And there's
Yeah.
a lot of things that I think contribute to salaries that on either end that you are. It could be good or it could be bad. I think
Well,
it's
you're coming at me
interesting.
with the firm owner knowledge. You're like, well, I don't like that guy, so I paid him less.
Yeah,
and I don't want to talk
business.
about it.
Oh my God, so funny. No, I think I truly think so. And for the record, everybody in Wisendale is hungry, so you eat what you kill. You eat what you kill around here at Wisendale team. So come to Death Row Records for sure.
And then you feed everyone wine on empty stomachs.
Right.
And then you just don't even know what's going to happen.
Right. Which I didn't offer you guys any wine if you guys would like some wine. So.
They didn't even get wine.
Yeah, So yeah, so
Do you guys want to share the last quarter of this bottle? I'm sorry. Wine's really important to me.
It is.
So I'm like, dang.
Well, I think another topic on that is the paid or unpaid internships, right?
Yeah.
But I think the salary thing, obviously, I think you should pay every intern. But the salary transparency thing is a huge conversation, and I think that's really led by the younger generation, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I think.
Well, I feel like when NCARB made it a requirement that you have to pay your interns in order for those hours to count towards AXP and IDP, or IDP previously, AXP now, I think that made a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
But is that what you're talking about, or not so much?
I'm not too sure what I'm talking about.
Cool.
Yeah.
I do think got to pay your interns. The funny thing is in college.
Let's talk about salary transparency. Sorry, not to cut you off.
Right. No, you're good. That's real. So I'm just thinking about in college, I had a job where I actually worked from 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. a couple of times. But I loved it because I was working for this awesome architect who had no room for poor design. He had a standard. But I remember thinking in college, I will do this because I'm paid hourly.
Mm-hmm.
If I am being paid a salary where my defined hours are 9 to 6, probably not working this job. and I didn't.
Yeah.
I came back.
Yeah.
So I think it is important to pay interns. I think there's a lot of opportunity there, but that's a good point. When you're working in like a larger firm, do we need to enable our interns to just talk amongst themselves about what they're being paid?
Yeah, and I think the salary transparency is something that I think a lot of it's no fault on the employee. I think a lot of the firms try to scoop by just having these tiers or not really having the structure to say, oh, well, this person's a D2, or someone was like, oh, this person's a D6. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how do you become a D6? Like, just senior designer maybe, or manager or something? Like,
so I recently found out what my billable rate is, and in that same
that's a whole nother thing. Oh my God, that's a whole nother
in that
thing.
Same conversation, I was told you should make about a third of your billable rate, and I was like, oh, should I? Because I know what I make, and I now know what my billable rate is, and I'm like, I'm gonna need about 20K more.
Oh my God. I mean, these are huge things, right? And these are huge. And when you talk about change, that's what you're talking about. You're talking about dollars. Like, I'm sorry, that everybody wants to talk about change, but what it is where the dollars lay. Follow the money. And
this goes back to our development conversation.
Absolutely.
Because why can't, like we were talking about Dion and E.G. Wood, he'll tell me constantly. It's frustrating. Shout out to Dion.
For
sure.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating when you're out here, you have the knowledge, you have the people. Maybe the only piece missing is capital, and you have to prove to someone that you do the thing that they don't do and that you know about it. That's wild.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so that's just really crazy. But just going back to the salary transparency thing, I almost wonder, and maybe this is a crazy idea, but I almost wonder if the concept of negotiating should be removed for fairness, because when I was applying for jobs, someone shared statistics with me that men are roughly 60% of the time will negotiate their salaries. They just say, like, well, I just want more. And it's like, why? Well, because I want more, and that's it. But as women, we feel so pressed to justify and please and not bother people. Only 7% of women negotiate their salaries. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like that's where my 20K went.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I was telling my sister when she was applying for jobs back when, and I read some stat that like men will apply for jobs that they're not qualified for just to apply for them, right? And just to like try it, and women won't do that. Yeah. And I told my sister, I'm like fucking apply, like just do that. Like there's no reason why you can't. Men are fucking doing it. And now that gets into a whole nother conversation as far as men and women being paid, right? Like that's ridiculous. So I really like all these heavy conversations. We might have to part this for part 2.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, I think that with the state of the world, with the year that we're coming off of, and then the year that we thought we were going to go into versus the year we're actually going into, can't help it,
Yeah.
It gets heavy.
I think what's important is that everything is relatable, or everything is intertwined, right? Like you can't talk about the vaccine without talking about how shitty our healthcare is, or you can't talk about one thing without talking about the other thing. Right. So it's all just bite-sized, and I think it's not gonna, again, in my humble opinion, it's not gonna happen overnight, but we just need to chip away constantly, try to improve. At least that's my view. So
yeah, I totally agree. I think that, I mean, what you said is right on. We can start to find just like that concept of unity again in these things, and honestly, humor, like what you just said about the live streaming comedy shows, like that hit me, because it's like a lot of how I deal with stuff sucking is like making weird dry remarks about everything that make me laugh. You know, because it's just like whatever.
Yeah. And when we watch it, like it's on a big screen, it's on a big TV, so it's a Zoom, so you have 20 different people on the screen.
Right.
So it's like you're watching TV, but these are like actual live people that you're just like one guy had his toe like all up in the camera.
Toe,
I know. It was ridiculous. I'm telling you, we're cracking up.
I someone cleaning their toes on the CTA yesterday, and it was too much. I was on the Green Line going to yoga at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and some dude
just cleaning it. Oh my god.
Bare toe. Don't say toes.
Oh, well, I will definitely send you that link for sure. Not of the toe cleaning, but of the Zoom.
But also, comedy's, I'm sorry, but just really quick, comedy is so linked to unity. Like, I feel like we realize how much we experience the same struggles once you make a joke about it. I went to once an entire comedy show, and the theme of it was being mixed race, which I didn't know was a thing, but I was excited. And and someone was like, one of the lines in it was like, aren't you sick of the Uber driver first asking where you're going and then asking if you have a boyfriend? And I was like, that happens to other people. Like, I was amazed. I was like, wait, this is a thing? And it was hilarious the way they set it up and go into like all this weird shit you experience when people don't know where to put you racially.
Yeah, for sure.
But I was dying. I was like, what? This hits home so hard. And I think it's just another way to just feel like, you know, we're all out here struggling.
Yeah, for sure.
In a lot of ways lately, but like, it's okay. Let's find the silver lining, humor, path forward, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well, where can people find you at? How about that?
Well, I feel like maybe my LinkedIn is the best place. I know that's super lame. I do have an Instagram.
Very corporate. Damn, you work at Smith Group?
Yeah.
Damn. Out here giving out her LinkedIn. Love it.
I was like about to be like my Instagram, which does exist, but it's like there's food and nature on there. I'm not sure that's that interesting.
That's cool. That's interesting.
And it's also only maybe like 18 months old. Like I haven't had it for that long.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I Instagram, LinkedIn.
Cool.
Find me over there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. Love catching up. Glad to
sure.
see alive and healthy and doing well.
I'm glad you're alive.
No, I see. I threw live in there. I didn't mean to. I just meant like, you know, alive and well.
I feel you.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't pass up a chance to throw shade.
Yeah, for sure. I got you. Don't ever stop doing that. But yeah, thank you. We'll catch up again in a year on record. So
cool. Thanks
cheers.
So much, Felix.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Your safety is important. If you observe unattended packages, vandalism, or suspicious activity, inform CTA personnel immediately.